Oh my gosh. Just in case you were wondering. All right. Let's go ahead and call the Finance Administration Committee to order. If City Clerk will note attendance, we'll proceed on with the agenda. First item will be agenda approval. Are there any additions or modifications to the agenda? I am aware of one is to remove Agenda Bill 25-129 resolution ratifying emergency sewer contract. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right. Are there any objections to removal of the agenda item? All right, let's go ahead and take that one off the agenda. Any other changes tonight? All right, with that, we'll take the agenda as approved. We'll open up to public comments. Is there anybody in attendance today wishing to make public comment before the committee? For any of those online, you can submit your comments by email and we'll catch those. We do not take live public comments. Hearing nobody, we'll go ahead and close public comment, move on with the rest of the agenda. With that, we'll move into minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes dated December 2nd?
Second.
All right. Any adjustments or comments in regards to the minutes? Chair has none. All right. All in favor of approval of minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Minutes are approved for December 2nd. All right, let's go. Consideration of claims report dated January 12th, 2026. I'm a little behind on email, but I don't have any email questions in that I'm aware of. Are there any questions from the committee members? I guess I kind of do. I can find where I do with my notes. Maybe handle this off side. Starting in page 27 of the package or page 4 of item 2, there's a lot of refund material. If I could get explanation of those. I'm particularly curious about the first one, which has, I think there's 5 refund items to one particular vendor. 4 of them, well, there are 4 items, all done on the December 23. 3 of them are under $1 and 2 of them are for a penny. It kind of throws me. And the other ones where I'm seeing, Joe plus Joe and Mary so-and-so refund, I'm confused of how couples are being refunded. So maybe that's a water bill, something or other, but if you can just give me an explanation of that offline before next council meeting. Yeah. Any other discussions with regard to warrants? Any objections to moving those forward to council? All right, let's go ahead and move those forward to council. With that, we'll move on to Agenda Bill 25-128, resolution ratifying emergency proclamation 2525.
All right, that's me. Good evening. Happy New Year. I'm your city attorney, Dina Burke. On December 10th, 2025, an atmospheric river made its way through Western Washington. It produced large amounts of rain and historic flooding throughout the region. Due to the heavy rainfall and severe flooding, Mayor Ross issued Emergency Proclamation 25-25, and shortly after, the city activated the Emergency Operations Center, or EOC, at 3 p.m. on December 10th, 2025, and the EOC was activated until late afternoon on December 11th. And during this time, staff worked around the clock to ensure the safety of residents. Snoqualmie Municipal Code 2.48.050 requires that as soon as practical, following a proclamation of emergency, that it be approved and ratified by the city council. So this is a resolution that would basically ratify the emergency proclamation that was issued by the mayor in December. I'm happy to answer any questions.
It was a fun time. So I'm not sure you're going to get a lot of questions. Any questions for committee? Any objection? Oh, go ahead.
So I'm just trying to understand what exactly this action does and doesn't do. Like, what does it have to do with regard to the funds or that stuff that we'll already have to pay, stuff that we did. Does this action also sprinkle holy water on those things, or like what exactly does this action do?
So it's basically required by the code, our code, and I think there's also an RCW that requires that the legislative body as soon as possible adopt it. The mayor is authorized to issue an emergency proclamation, and that then allows the city administrator and department heads to enter into contracts without a lot of the usual like authorizations or requirements that are normally required. Arguably, those contracts would still be valid even without the city council's blessing of this resolution, but it's basically a method to confirm that the emergency did happen as kind of part of the checks and balances that exist in our government system.
Okay, is it a follow-up?
Okay, good. I got two other.
So
hands up.
like, if hypothetically, obviously this was a real one, but if there was something that I didn't personally think was a real emergency, then, and I was not going to be in favor of ratifying it, then what effect could that have? Let's say we got 4
Yeah,
council members.
I think theoretically, the emergency would then end the day that council refuses to ratify the emergency proclamation. So there would be a valid legal emergency from the date the mayor did the proclamation until the date that council refused to ratify it.
Yeah.
But I really hope I don't find out that legal hypothetical.
Yeah, thank you.
Mayor Mayhew, would you put your hand down? Okay. City Administrator?
One component, this is very important to the process of recovering funds if available from the federal government, and Drew's actually prepared to talk a little bit about that.
I'm gonna, Councilman Christensen first, and then you get to go.
Well, most of my questions are actually probably what Drew is going to be addressing next, but it was in connection with how we're actually going to be paying for it, whether we are going to be able to or have to move around projects that are in the utilities capital, and also hopefully getting some more information on when we're going to have to debrief on it as well, which I assume is on the plan somewhere, but we'd love to talk about that.
Okay. Councilman Johnson?
I'm sure that the rest of the council could also benefit from the education that we could get from Drew. So, or excuse me, Director Pauta.
Yeah.
So he's telling, anyway, so it's possible that from my perspective, I'm not sure what I would get that would be specifically needed for tonight from a presentation, but I would like to get it. I just would be willing to bet that the rest of the council would also like to get
Oh,
it.
yeah.
So I'd be fine with holding off on the presentation tonight until next week.
Staff have any objections?
Let's do a rehearsal.
Okay,
That way, if there's additional questions too, we can.
okay.
All right, sounds good.
Drew, it's your floor.
All right, so the city has been working. So happy 2026 council. Welcome. It's great to see this background behind you as well. Two, I'm going to discuss the 2025 flood event and how much we've paid to date to support the response and the recovery to the 2025 flood event. And then I'm also going to describe for you some of the major disaster declaration process and kind of what that looks like. Ultimately, I think the plan for us is to submit for reimbursement from the federal government at some point. And we often have to work through our partners, such as the county and the state, to accomplish that. But there's a huge process that's associated with that. But before we kind of enter into that process a little bit, I want to share with you how much we believe we've spent to date on the flood emergency at this point. So let me just get into the slide presentation for you right here. So in essence, we are currently estimating that to date, the impact of the December 2025 flood event is roughly $320,000 in total that the city has spent. That includes roughly $113,000 in employee costs, both regular time that is spent on the event as well as overtime that was spent on the event too. We spent currently about $26,000 in terms of supplies to support the flood response and recovery, $52,000 in services. And then we also had some challenges, or at least some issues around our fiber optic cable that we've had to repair in response to the flood event, as well as a sewer repair contract. So we had 3 sinkholes that we had to address as well. So as a consequence of this, if you add this all up, it's roughly equal to about $520,000 in total that we have estimated to date as a cost resulting from this flood event.
I have a question, and I don't know whether it would belong on this or not, but I assume that there was a fair bit of the park that was also taken away in the river with the flooding. Is that accurate? And then would that be calculated in this, since we do have plans to eventually, add that back into the space so that we have a functional park again?
Go ahead. City
So,
Manager.
so there was some damage at Sandy Cove. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. The interim project that was completed did a really good job of holding its own. So some of it unraveled, but not all of it. So we really didn't lose that much more. We lost a tree is what we lost.
Okay.
And some damage to what we did, but it was an interim project anyway.
All right, that's helpful. Thank you.
All right, so this provides you with a sense of how much we've spent as an estimate to date on the 2025 flood event. In terms of trying to seek reimbursement from the federal government in support of our efforts
Oh,
during this
Madam Chair.
disaster.
Councilman Johnson, you have a question?
On the previous slide, has a long-term solution been found for the fiber optic cable? I understand there was a short-term thing that there were amendments made to that, how that was done, but
So we actually have to wait for PSC to bring the poles back up.
okay.
We are looking at undergrounding, but there is a cost to that, and I would like to partner with the school district if we're going to do that. Because it's a creek and we're not sure how much that would cost at this point. So the temporary fix right now is they have both our cables going into one. So whatever active fiber we have is active. And so we're just waiting, we're trying to get information from PSC. Our liaison is out, but I've emailed him to say, hey, he'll be back this week and I'll have more information on that. But yes, right now the temporary fix is working fine.
But it's still temporary.
Yes, it is temporary, and we'll get it back up once the poles are back up. And underground, it can be expensive, obviously, in the waterway area, because we're doing some undergrounding soon as part of our non-utility CIP plan for Tokol, because that has been caught a few times by dump trucks or something of another. And and the city administrator, Chambliss, did ask me about that today, so I don't have much details on that yet, about undergrounding for Kimball Creek. But hopefully that answers your question. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
So the city will be seeking to access some federal resources to support the city and really reimburse the city for our flood expenses or expenses associated with this flood event. But in order to do that, the president would need to declare a major disaster, and there's a process in order to get to that stage itself, which includes primarily the state as well as the county supporting that effort, as well as the city too participating in this process overall. So really first, the governor must proclaim an emergency, which he has done, and that was certainly in December itself. State has to demonstrate that it's exhausted all of its capabilities, and then the state has to request a major disaster declaration. Now, requesting a major disaster declaration takes some effort and requires data collection on behalf of the state in order to accomplish that. The city has an important role to play in terms of producing initial damage assessments across kind of multiple domains at the city and submitting that information to both the county as well as the state. And so consequently, right now, the city is engaged in that process. We've established the financial accounts that we needed to track all this information. We've been documenting as much as we can as well to be able to submit that to the state too. And we've got basically a deadline to get that information to the state as completed as we can by about January the 20th. So we've got a point person at the city that is working on that effort right now, and we're seeking to perform that data collection effort and then submit those materials to the requisite people. So with that said, what do they need from us overall in terms of this local damage assessment? Well, we need the designated single point of contact, which we have done. And we need to also identify and report all disaster-related damages too. So we've done a very comprehensive effort to try to suss out what all those damages have been overall across the city and to collate them into one summary basically on behalf of us. We then need to request technical assistance as needed, document the damages with photos, track emergency response costs separately. So there's a flood response as well as a flood recovery. We have to make sure that those two are separated because we have to report on those separately. And then we also have to preserve all original documentation related to those costs. which we are doing currently right now. In terms of the eligible work categories that we would fall under, there are different categories that you see here. The ones that are going to be primarily affecting the city of Snoqualmie is going to include category A, B, and F. So debris removal, emergency protective measures, and utilities. And included within that utilities is the fiber optic cable, which is a part of that. So right now, as I've stated, the city's in the process of filling out that preliminary damage assessment, reports for all applicable categories at this stage, and that will include this cost information that I shared with you earlier too. And so as a consequence of that, we will get that to the requisite authority by January the 20th, and then we'll work from there to work along that pathway that I showed earlier towards hopefully receiving reimbursement for our flood event expenditures. So with that said, that's primarily all my presentation, and happy to entertain any questions you might have.
Councilman Johnson?
Does our process also affect the ability for homeowners and just other landowners, to also recuperate funds, or is that just a completely separate process?
That is a separate process from our current process. So we're operating under this category called public assistance.
Mhm.
There's also an individual assistance category too, in which FEMA could potentially fund those reimbursement expenditures. That's on a much quicker timeline than public assistance is for the most part. So if you were an individual homeowner or business, for example, impacted by the flood, you need to submit your reports to King County by December the 28th. So that deadline has already passed. So it's a fairly fast moving process itself. Not to say that that's potentially just an initial damage assessment itself, which doesn't necessarily mean that maybe others won't be able to participate in the future, but that train is already moving at that stage for residents as well as the business community at this stage. So right now, they're on that kind of time frame. We're on a different time frame that's a little bit slower than the individual assistance and what those payouts might look like.
Thanks.
Okay, I guess my question is the other side of the coin. We should support that process and everything else. I'm not betting on it though. So we've got a $500,000 expenditure. When are we going to talk about when are things shuffling around, how we're paying for that $500,000?
So we've got to work out the details. And so we're working on that currently and having discussions with both the administration and others involved in that process. And our goal is to come back to you in 2 weeks to have that discussion.
Okay. I don't see this administration paying out. I'm sorry. If they do, great, windfall. All right.
And I'm certainly happy to present this at the full council as
Yeah.
well.
Please. I mean, a good chunk have not gone through the emergency fund and games. Oh,
Sorry, for the resolution, for the agenda bill, is there a desire for it to be on consent or F&A committee?
if we're gonna do the discussion here, let's do it as part of F&A.
Okay.
Mayor, you had your hand up?
Yeah, so that you're also aware, as part of doing the things that are on the list that Director Boutte went over, our city employees and to some extent school district employees acting on our behalf handle emergency. They go onto private property. That's one of the things that you do in an emergency to handle the emergency. So if we've got a sewer pipe that is needs attention, we go in and we attend to it. But there were that doesn't always sit well with the residents whose property just got impinged on by city employees, and so there is some a discussion with some city residents about that, handling that. I think, they have an understandable desire to discuss, hey, what happened? Why did that happen? So we're just working through that. Nothing I really would bring to your attention other than just to let you know that, as you might guess, there's some discussions like that.
All right. Thank you, Drew. Oh, Councilman Johnson, you have your hand up?
Yeah, and that also just reminds me that some residents did have comments about you know, the process that was used, things that went well and things that we should look at in terms of our process. And I'm sure that that'll all come in due time. As council member Christensen was saying that, yeah, we'll get a report and I'm sure that we'll have discussions about all those kinds of things.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to, we have future meeting agenda, ordinance amending, that's a future item? Or are we gonna discuss that tonight? Ordinance amending repealing SMC to align with financial management policy, it's a future item?
Yes.
Okay. With that, we can move on to review of draft council agenda. Is 7 PM, is that a typo?
7
Sorry, it
p.m.
was a joke.
We
Oh,
can start earlier. Yeah.
that's all right. Let's start at 7. All right, we'll do call to order, pledge of allegiance, agenda approval, and public hearing. We'll have oath of office for Mayor Mayhew and Councilmember Murphy. And we'll have Mayor Pro Tem elections right off the bat. Okay? From there, we'll go on to public comments, requests for items not on the agenda, and approval of minutes and approval of claims. And I've lost my page 2. Public Safety Committee, Community Development Committee, Parks and Public Works, Finance Administration, let's remove the sewer contract. And let's move down in there, the proclamation, oh, it's there. All right, it's already there in F&A. Okay. Any other things for F&A? All right, and committee of the whole, I would like to add an item, at least potentially for committee assignments. So that we can start the next week off and running. Just to take the mystery off, my intention is then that meeting to nominate Councilman Johnson as Mayor Pro Tem. So that gives the opportunity for you to go ahead and do the committee assignment, so we're set for that next week. Okay, then we'll have mayor's report and commissions and committee liaison reports. And with that will be the end of our agenda. Are there other items that ought to appear on the agenda? All right, all those in favor of the, oh, wait a minute, got a hand?
I was premature.
Okay. All those in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. No nays, the agenda is approved. Mayor Mayhew, you have a,
Just a reminder, and this will be, there'll be an email reminder of this as well, but just a reminder that we're looking to take photographs at 6:30.
oh, so 7 wasn't.
And
We'll have to notice that also, won't we? Yeah,
Not, we're just gonna do a potential forum. It's not a meeting, just a get together for photos.
yeah, just whenever 4 of us show up on city business, the world needs to know about it for some reason.
Sometime between 6 and 7.
huh, 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 huh. No, you missed it. It's a thing the kids do.
Some of us are.
So reminder, 6:30 and business casual, we're thinking for the photo, we're hoping to get the group photo that we can use kind of, there'll also be some individual photos as well.
You'd like
Yeah.
to redo your photo?
So 6:30 for that, just a reminder.
Okay. And you'll send an email out to the rest of council too? Give them a heads up. Thank you. All right, with that, unless there's further item, oh, I got somebody coming up. Yep.
Jen Hughes, Deputy Finance Director. I wanted to offer, I have an answer to your claims question if you would like it on the record, or we can talk about it off the record.
Let me talk off the record.
Okay.
I don't want to mention all those people's names. All right. All right, unless there are objections, we can adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you. And